Hola, muy buenos días. Bienvenidos a todos quienes están uniendo a esta sesión informativa. Es una sesión muy especial para Colfuturo porque es con una de las universidades más prestigiosas del mundo. Y seguramente todos, antes de haber escuchado que hoy íbamos a hacer este webinar, habían escuchado hablar de la prestigiosa Universidad de Oxford. Les cuento que yo este año tuve la oportunidad por primera vez de visitar la Universidad de Oxford y gracias a esta visita tuvimos este contacto con el Rhodes Scholarship Program que ellos tienen para becar a estudiantes a nivel mundial. Entonces, la sesión de hoy es una sesión especial porque no es un convenio con Colfuturo, esta es una beca completa, absolutamente con todo para quienes quieran estudiar en la Universidad de Oxford. Hoy tenemos un invitado muy especial. Yo investigué un poco la vida de Santiago antes de conocerlo hoy, de hecho, porque me puse a buscar qué estudiantes colombianos se habían ganado esta beca y me topé con la historia de Santiago que seguramente más adelante les va a contar. Entonces, quiero darle la bienvenida a Santiago. Una observación que hago es que la sesión, aunque pues Santiago obviamente habla español, vamos a hacer la presentación en inglés porque uno de los requisitos, obviamente, cuando uno quiere ser becario es hablar inglés, pero él nos va a contar muchas más cosas. Y la invitación es para que nos envíen sus preguntas en el chat. Santiago está listo para responder. Entonces, voy a cerrar mi cámara, mi micrófono y te doy la bienvenida, Santiago.
Bueno, buenos días a todos. Como dijo Joana, sí voy a hacer, como la mayoría de la presentación va a ser en inglés, porque sí es necesario tener un nivel de inglés alto para aplicar a la beca. Tu inglés no tiene que ser perfecto, pero sí alto. Entonces voy a a compartir mi pantalla. Ok, ¿se ve bien? ¿Se ve? Ok,
Sí, se ve perfecto.
ok, gracias. Bueno. So, yeah, this is the Global Rhodes Scholarship. The Rhodes Scholarship, as Joanna mentioned, is it's probably it's probably the most prestigious academic and leadership scholarship in the world. And I think that's for many things. It started off in the early 1900s, based on the will of Cecil Rhodes. Cecil was he was like a very prominent at the time British businessman. And he was so successful that if you were alive during the early 1900s and you had some kind of diamond, almost any kind of diamond at all, the chances were very, very high that that diamond that you had came from one of his mines in southern Africa. So, yeah, I'm gonna do a little presentation. This young student right here is actually one of my friends. She's from India, from the Indian constituency. You might hear that word a lot during the presentation. Constituency just means it's kind of like a jurisdiction kind of that the scholarship made to just it's just kind of like a sector almost, and you apply from whichever sector you belong to. So my friend here, she applied from the Indian constituency. I applied from the American constituency. There's plenty of others. So we'll talk about, what is a Rhodes Scholarship? Could you be a Rhodes Scholar? The answer is yes already. How to apply and myth busting the scholarship. So, as I was saying, what is a Rhodes Scholarship? Established with the will of Cecil John Rhodes. Over 100 years later, really is, something you'll notice here, even in the wording of the slides, is that they say that it's perhaps the most prestigious international scholarship. Um, they say perhaps because I think what I want to point out is that this is like something very interesting that I learned about British culture, and that you'll definitely be immersed in once you're there, is that British culture is very, very understated. I think in some ways similar to Colombian culture too, in some ways. Like I said, I'm Colombian. I was born in Colombia, I was born in Cali, but I moved with my family to Miami in Florida when I was like 3 or 4 years old. And so I kind of like am both Colombian and American culturally. But I point this out because it's once you're there, like if a British, something like British society says like, perhaps the most this or perhaps the most that, they really mean very much so. So just something to keep in mind. Um, so talking more about the reputation of the scholarship, it really has made lots of impact in so many fields throughout the world. There's no one kind of Rhodes Scholar, definitely not. And we'll see a little bit more about that. These are some important qualities. So this is a big so when I talk to my cousins who are still in Colombia, when we talk about scholarships, I think that um usually, and I could be wrong, but usually I think that the understanding is that if you have if you win a scholarship, it's really almost entirely academic. So you win a scholarship because you maintain a certain grade point average, or you received at least a minimum score in an exam. With this scholarship, which is actually very similar to how U.S. universities function, um, with this scholarship, it's really a holistic approach. Um, they look at not just your academic prowess, but they look at your leadership potential. They look at what you've done for the communities that you're a part of, literally where you live. So it's not just your academics. It's really it's a wide range of things that they look at. And here are some of the alums. Obviously, here we have President Bill Clinton. He was probably one of the most famous scholars, Rhodes Scholars. Um, there's lots of people in politics and government. Tony Abbott, all these are Australian prime ministers. Wasim Sajjad, another Pakistani. Um, lots of there's in here in the US, there's currently Pete Buttigieg. He ran for president a couple years ago. He's a Rhodes Scholar. Gina Raimundo, she's high up in the Biden administration. Lots of people currently in the Biden administration, in other words, the current US government, many of them are Rhodes Scholars. And this is just in the US. I mean, this is really international. It's an international network. There's Canadians and South Africans and Indians and Chinese and Hong Kong, all that. Like really, yeah, lots of things you can imagine. Let's see. Any questions? Okay. Um, so back in the day, or up to before 2022, there were only you could only apply to the Rhodes Scholarship if you fell into one of the so-called constituencies, which Cecil Rhodes drafted in his will. These were America, Canada, South Africa, Australia, India, Germany. Um, but starting in 2022, the current trustees of Rhodes Will opened it up to absolutely anyone. So anyone in the world can come, can apply. And that includes obviously people like you guys, like us, people from Colombia, Colombian citizens. And yeah, it's open to anyone to it all. So because Colombia does not currently belong to a specific constituency, for example, like China has its own a specific constituency. Because Colombia does not currently belong to one, though there may be plans for that in the future. You can apply through the global Rhodes Scholarship. So basically, anyone who's a citizen of a country which currently does not have its own jurisdiction. And some global Rhodes Scholars come from Afghanistan, Argentina. This year, there's a girl from Argentina, Cameroon, Ethiopia, Indonesia, Russia, Spain. That's South Africa. One of my really good friends, South Korea. She's from South Korea, and yeah. So there's like what I was mentioning. These are the different Rhodes constituencies. These are the specific ones. So Australia, Hong Kong, Israel, Kenya, West Africa. So all these here are specific ones where around two and I think max of like in the US I think there's like 32. So 32 Americans get the scholarship every year. I think something like 8 or 12 Canadians get it. In China, I think it's like 4 of them that get it. But these are the specific ones. So if you happen to like have citizenship from one of these countries by any chance, then I think you're welcome to apply through one of these specific constituencies. Otherwise, you would do it through the Global Rhodes constituency. Okay, so now speaking more specifically about what the scholarship gives you. So it is a fully funded, and when they mean fully funded, they really do mean fully funded. You don't have to pay anything at all. It's a fully funded, full-time postgraduate award. So in other words, you can only apply for it if you're about to finish your bachelor's degree, or I guess an undergraduate degree. Um, it's for postgraduate degrees. Though once you get it, you can decide to do like I did, another undergrad degree. And there's some different reasons as to why I did, and I'm happy to talk about that later. So I'll talk a little bit more about like what it means by fully funded. The UK has something called the National Health Service. So it's basically just like socialized medicine, basically. And obviously, you do have to pay for it. There's like for international students, as you all will be. Um, there's a certain surcharge that you have to pay before you arrive in the United Kingdom. The trust pays for that. The trust also pays for a round trip flight from wherever in Colombia you're from to London and back. Once you finish the degree, they pay you a very generous monthly stipend. Yeah, very, very generous. So much so that not only can you pay for your housing and your food, there's also always some left over for you to do some traveling, which is one of the great things about living over there in that part of the world. I mean, the distance, for example, from London to Paris is it's almost like an hour-long flight. Pretty much, I mean, it's really that part of the world is a lot smaller, I think, than in like South America. And so they basically fund you also to do some leisure travel. Yeah, this is kind of what I said. They'll cover T4 student visa, which is just like the UK student visa. They cover 2 economy class flights. And there's also not only do you receive a monthly stipend, but they also give you an allowance as for when you're settling in there. And they have to say that they're very generous for it. So, what makes it unique? I'd say a couple of things that makes it unique. I mean, obviously the slides here talk about their character service and leadership program. So it's not just an academic scholarship. It's this scholarship is not just for the person who's like an incredible genius and has like perfect grades. I think people like that should definitely apply. But what I've noticed since I got it is that it's for people who obviously have very strong academic credentials, but that are also leaders. That people who see, issues, whatever issues that they see from where they're from, and that they take actions to address it. So I think that's another major thing about what makes a scholarship unique. Um, you know, you'll be an Oxford student. In other words, you'll have access to all of Oxford's, libraries, which are extremely old. It's like you're studying in a museum. I mean, I think this picture here, well, this lower one is of Rhodes House, which is you guys will be very lucky because when I was there, it was still being renovated. So it wasn't, what it is now. And then this one here, this is the Rose Brew Room, which is a library just for Rhodes scholars. But you also have access to, things that Oxford does. So your college, you'll belong to a college once you're in there. You'll have your college library, college gym, depending on which college you're at. And so you have everything that Oxford University offers, along with everything that the Rhodes Scholarship offers, which are things like, your own library, your own special events only for Rhodes scholars, a coming up dinner. So in other words, coming up and going down. So once you get to Oxford, you'll see that there's lots of like very just Oxford vocabulary. Like really, they're English words, but they're only used within Oxford because it's just one of those things about it. So coming up refers to when you're first arriving in Oxford, because traditionally it would be people from usually like the southern counties or the southern parts of the United Kingdom, London and so forth, which would have to travel north to get to Oxford. That's what they call it coming up. Conversely, once you're finished with your time in Oxford, they call it going down. So you go from Oxford and you go down to London or wherever else, usually in the south where people would be from. They have Rhodes balls. In other words, there's another very Oxford tradition. It's like a ball. It's like a banquet. Um, una especie de un baile, but it's like a band, it's a ball, it's a black tie. Sometimes some of them are white tie, which is really in Western dress. It's really the most formal of attire. Um, they host all types of things, talks, seminars, fora, etc. So, could you be a Rhodes Scholar? Absolutely. Yes, you can. This what are they looking for? Like I said, academic achievement and excellence. Note how they did not write in this poster. They're not looking for academic perfection. They are not looking for academic perfection. So I really would not, I do not want to see any of you say, oh, I got a bad grade in this class, or I didn't get as, I don't have an as overall a grade point average as high as I'd like. I would not like for that to stop you guys from applying. They're looking for academic achievement and excellence. What else do we look for? These are some of the more so these other three are some of the more holistic aspects to what they're looking for, which I had been mentioning. And these are the things from Cecil Rhodes's original will. They're looking for people who value the truth, who are courageous, who are devoted to duty, who have a sympathy for and protection of the weak, people who are kind and unselfish, and people who believe in fellowship. In other words, fellowship in this sense means people who believe in being part of some kind of community, and I think that word there is probably used to differentiate from more like individualistic kind of approach to life, I would have to say. I think so. These are some of the things that they really value. Some of the other ones, I'll put this to the side. Um, energy, yeah. Energy to use one's talents to the full. So these are some like the extracurricular things that they value. So it could be something like you are not only a very strong student, but you're very good at sport, for example, or you're very good at music, or in debate, or whatever, what have you, something that you've just worked very hard in that's outside of your academics. For me, it was I was a research assistant. I'm not sure how to say that in Spanish, but basically I would help my professors con sus búsquedas. And so yeah, so for me it was I worked with like a physics professor, and but also with like a neuroscience professor and a psychology professor, philosophy, very different fields. And this is also very American. I think that outside of the United States it's kind of difficult to just to have professors just allow you to work, in very different fields. And I'm saying that just to say that this is like a very like that was my American context. So in Colombia, if you're studying like medicine, if you're able to work and if you want to, you shouldn't feel any pressure. But if you want to work with a professor in literature or professor in history and you're able to work with them, even if it doesn't seem directly related to whatever you're studying, say medicine, you should do it if you want to. But the scholarship committee is going to understand your academic and extracurricular success within the context that you're in. So they're going to understand. They're going to really research whatever university you come from, and they're going to understand where you came from, which is another major point. And I really want you guys to listen to this. You should not expect yourselves to have to do like you don't have to to save the whales, for example. You don't have to save the whales, and that has to be like your extracurricular project. Especially if you come from a lower income background, like a more humble background, and you just cannot, you don't have the time to do all these extracurriculars, they're going to understand that. They're going to know that this is a person from a humble background who, after like his or her, study time during the day, has to work at night to support himself or herself, or to support his or her family. So these are lots of things. Sorry, I'm just looking at some of the questions. I think I'll answer. Please send all your questions, and I'll get to them at the end. So yeah, so what I'm saying is that yeah, these are all they're going to take a holistic look at where you came from, and what you have had and have not had access to. So don't think that you have to, if you don't have the means to do like some extracurricular activity, I don't know, like music or something, don't think that that's going to disqualify you. In fact, I would even say that if you're able to achieve like some incredible things, despite your humble background, I think that that is already very meritorious. And then the courage and skills required to lead with a wider desire for public good. So I think this is another thing that really differentiates the scholarship. I think they look for, there is no one kind of Rhodes Scholar, but I think that something of value that the different committees really look for is people who care about the public good. That doesn't mean that you have to only want to be a politician. I do not want to be a politician, for example. But it's for people who care about not just your own personal success, but some type of greater just public success. All right, so we can talk a little bit about the eligibility. You really have to consider your citizenship. You should not be eligible to apply for the Rhodes Scholarship in any other constituency. In other words, if you happen to be Americans, happen to have like American citizenship or Canadian citizenship, you cannot apply through the global Rhodes constituency. You would have to apply through the American constituency or the Canadian constituency, for example. Age. So you're expected to be between 18 and 23 years old and under 27 years old. But I think there's some leeway because sometimes, for example, there's some countries like Israel or South Korea which have mandatory military service around the time you're 18. So I think that these are like the average age. This is the average age, but if there's something like if there's something like that, like a mandatory government service that you had to do, then yeah, you can only there's like what I want to say is that there's some wiggle room here, I believe. Um, so let's see, you must have completed or in the process of completing an undergraduate degree with a GPA of 3.7 out of 4 or higher. So GPA, obviously, this is an American term, North American term. So whatever the equivalent is in your country. And I want to really emphasize this. The minimum that they're looking for is a 3.7 out of 4. So notice that they did not say they did not say a 4.0 out of a 4.0 GPA. They didn't even say a 3.9 out of a 4.0 GPA. They're really the minimum they're looking for is a 3.7 or whatever equivalent that would be in, whatever university you go to in Colombia. But yeah, they're not looking for perfection. They are not looking for perfection. Okay. So what do you need? A lot of things. It's this is yeah, this is a lot. So your birth certificate, passport, your transcripts, evidence of where you reside. In other words, I think the website has more specific things, but maybe like some type of utility bill, like, for water or whatever. Personal statement, your CV or resume, evidence of English language proficiency. I think this might be through an exam, like a TOEFL, I think it's what it's called. TOEFL, whatever. They need like a picture of you, like a headshot, reference letters for an academic statement. So I think the ones that are less evident are, that are just obvious what they are. Personal statements. So it's changed a bit since I won it in 2020, but the personal statement, yeah. So think when you're thinking about these two statements, think of the personal statement as different from your academic statement. I'm not sure how university admissions work in Colombia. I'm sorry, but these are the personal statement should be very personal. It's about you and where you came from and what circumstances you might have lived in your life. Like I don't know if you're like from some region in Colombia like that's more rural, like that's like this is the place where you would really talk about that and really show how you've what you've been able to accomplish. So it's a personal statement. It's kind of think of it as like an intimate statement, so to speak. It's really about you and your life. The academic statement, on the other hand, is very academic. It's you're proposing to the trustees or your scholarship committee. You're proposing to them an academic study plan. In other words, why you want to study what you want to study, why you're proposing whatever field that you're proposing. So yeah. I'll also talk a little bit about the reference letters. You should not feel any pressure to have, famous people or anything like that write your reference letters. Um, no. What a strong letter from someone, from a professor, that maybe isn't even like the most prominent professor in university, but a strong letter from, professor who you know well. In your who you know well in your department is much better than a lukewarm or just average letter from someone from someone very famous, or very well known, So really focus on this. The quality of a reference letter comes from how how well the reference writer is able to talk about you, and not who that person happens to be. I believe that in the global Rhodes constituency, I think one of these has to be a character reference. In other words, someone that can comment about who you are, personally in terms of your character, and especially if you're able to, you know, if you do satisfy like these types of things, like your truth, your courage, whatever. I believe that one of these has to be a character reference. So one character reference and three academic references. I'm not completely sure. I think these changed recently, and I also applied through the American constituency, which one of them does have to be a character reference, but I think you can find all these things on their website. So the process and timelines. Yeah, applications are open now. They close the 1st of August. You guys should just apply. I mean, just apply. Who knows what will happen? Like I said, someone from Argentina won, I think, this year. And so, yeah, I think that definitely Colombia could send many people, so I think you guys should just apply. Really do not limit yourselves. Don't say no to yourself. Let the scholarship committee say no to you, but don't say no to yourself. Yeah, I think you guys should just apply. So it's open now, it closes the 1st of August this year. There's going to be a first round, which is just based on the written materials that you send. That's going to be around these dates, the 7th to the 25th of August. There's going to be a second round, which are telephone interviews around these dates. And the final round is that they'll fly you to Oxford from anywhere, wherever you are. They'll fly, like you could be from I don't know, San Andres, and they'll fly you from San Andres all the way to Oxford, and that's where you'll have the final round interviews, and it'll be in person. So let's talk about some myths about who wins the scholarship. First myth: I'm not the type of person who can win a Rhodes Scholarship. No. Like they really mean, I mean, some people, I think that the reason why this was a myth in the first place was that when Cecil Rhodes first wrote the scholarship, he only wanted males to win, so you had to be male. And one of the things that he wrote also is that he wanted like these men to be very active in sports. I happen to be active in sports, but I know some of my fellow Rhodes classmates who are not at all interested or really in sports. So there is no one type of Rhodes Scholar. And in fact, I think something that's very impressive about Cecil Rhodes when he wrote his will was that there was not going to be any type of religious aspect of it. Obviously nowadays, I think that's kind of normal to us. Like there, like that it doesn't matter what religion you are, you can still apply to it. Back in the day, in the early 1900s, that was very, very. I think I even want to call it radical. So I mean, it's always from the very beginning. It's always been a scholarship that's open to all kinds of people. So selection is made without regard to. So there's another thing. Like they don't. Not only can anyone from any gender or gender identity or whatever, or sexual orientation or race, ethnic origin, not only can any of those backgrounds apply, that they're not considering that at all when you apply. So there are no quotas, for example, of any kind. They really only care about kind of the strength of your application. The second myth, I have to be top of my class. So for this one, for me, like I had very strong grades. I was not number one in my class. I went to my undergrad university was Columbia University, here in New York. I'm in New York now, actually working in the summer. Um, I was not number one in my class. I was, towards the top of it, but you do not have to be, like I said, like some academic genius, um, you know, to um to to apply. The answer is that, you do need your transcript, your academic transcript has to be very strong so you get into Oxford. But and look what they mentioned here. It is equally important. Your commitment to serve others is equally important. I mean, that's huge. So they care as much about your commitment to serve other people as much as they care about your academic excellence. So that's just something to think about. Third one, I can't apply because my country is not listed as a Rhodes constituency. I think we all know the answer to that now. No, that's not true because they offer two global scholarships for candidates from the rest of the world. In other words, they're not connected to any of the other constituencies. Myth number four, this is a good one. You have to have done months of volunteer work abroad or started your own NGO. An NGO is like a non-governmental organization. Um, so this is kind of one of the points that I was making. If you don't have the resources to be able to, like, for example, leave Colombia and volunteer abroad, or even volunteer within Colombia. If you don't have those resources, that's no problem at all. The scholarship committee is going to understand the context which you came from. So what it says here is as long as you demonstrate that you have worked to improve the lives of other people, that's what counts. And this can be done in many ways, including within your own neighborhood. Myth number five, most scholars end up as political leaders. No, I mean, I have no interest in being anything political. That's just not my vibe. And lots of people, there's doctors and, there's activists and journalists and lawyers and teachers and all types of things. So yeah, you don't have to want to be a politician to do it. Okay, so here are some ways, this is also my other friend here. She's from Canada. These are ways that you can keep in touch. There's a Facebook page, Instagram, X, LinkedIn, YouTube. Yeah, you can just like on Google, if you put like Rhodes Trust Facebook, it's there, or Rhodes Trust Instagram, whatever. You can find all of these. And this is the big website. www.rhodeshouse.ox, which stands for Oxford, .ac, which stands for academic.uk. And so this is it's a very typical British website and /apply. You can learn more about the scholarship with the dates. They do have useful resources, and you can ask current Rhodes Scholar questions about Oxford during their Instagram takeovers. So yeah, this is it. Of the, I guess, a formal presentation. Happy to look at some of the Q&A. Let's see. And so before I start answering, please know that I don't work for the Rhodes Trust. I graduated from Oxford, I guess I graduated last year. I go to law school now. So that's just to say that I'm gonna try my best to answer these to the best of my abilities. But yeah, you should take the final, like the truth or the final answer to these should come from either the material that's on that website that's right here, rhodeshouse.ox.ac.uk, um, or through I think your university's like maybe academic liaison or something like that. But I'm going to answer my best to try my best to answer these. Okay. The first question is from Andrea Tavares. Buenos días. ¿La beca solo aplica para estudio en modalidad presencial o también virtual? No, la beca solamente se aplica para estudio en persona. Tienes que vivir en Oxford, tienes que mudarte para el Reino Unido para poder estudiar allá y recibir la beca. Ok, great. Gracias. Gracias, Joana. De Sara Fonseca, ¿esta beca también es para MBA o Masters in Administration? Yes. Entonces pueden buscar todo lo que tiene, todos los cursos que ofrece Oxford online, o sea, todos los cursos que Oxford ofrece y tienen MBA, tienen Masters in Administration, tienen muchísimas cosas. Tienen doctorados que son mucho más cortos, como doctorados de 3 o 4 años en cosas muy específicas. Tienen cursos de literatura, historia, muchísimas cosas. Y también uno puede estudiar cursos de undergrad. Por ejemplo, yo hice decidí estudiar un undergrad degree porque quería una experiencia mucho más tradicional, sí, tradicional británica, porque en general, y esto no es necesariamente algo, no es algo malo de las maestrías o de los doctorados, pero sí, yo sí quería una experiencia más tradicional y británica y eso se encuentra más fácil con los undergrad degrees. ¿Dónde aprendiste inglés? Yo soy americano, bueno, obviamente soy colombiano, pero soy americano, he vivido en Estados Unidos desde los 3 o 4 años y entonces, sí, gracias. Una pregunta de Juan Correa, me refiero al PDF. Yo
Aquí
creo
te
que,
ayudo, Santiago. Y es
gracias.
que nos estaban preguntando varias personas si
Ajá.
la sesión va a quedar grabada. Entonces les confirmo a todos que sí, en el transcurso de los próximos 3 a 5 días hábiles va a estar publicada en nuestro canal de YouTube. Y el canal de YouTube de Colfuturo lo pueden encontrar ingresando a www.colfuturo.org. Arriba van a ver el loguito de YouTube. Entonces, la pregunta de Juan es complementaria a eso, que si podemos compartir este PDF que tú estás presentando.
Sí, creo que sí. Y yo te lo mando a ti, Joana. Gracias. Okay, Maria Paula Garcia, is it required to be graduate to apply? Does it include any type of degrees? Um, do you have to be no, I think you can apply. Yeah, you can apply once while you're studying, but in other words, I think you can apply during your last year. Um, yeah, you can apply during your last year. Does it include any type of degrees? Yes. I mean, I think there's some degrees that the scholarship chooses not to cover, but I think there's a list of it online. But in reality, they'll cover pretty much anything. Yeah. Daniela Barón Cruz, buen día. Quisiera consultarte cuántas becas se otorgan anualmente y es aplicable en cualquier máster. La cantidad de becas que se otorgan depende de cuál es tu constituency. Como ustedes aplicarían, a no ser que sean ciudadanos de un país que ya tienen su propia constituency, pero el Rhodes Global solamente da 2 al año. No se intimidan, por favor, quiero que sí apliquen. Pero sí, son 2 cada año. Y sí se aplica a cualquier master's, como ya había dicho. Andrea Arevalo, hello. I want to know about the max age that can apply to the scholarship. I think like that slide there said, it's usually about 27. That's like the max age. But I think what really matters is when you finished studying your undergraduate degree. And like I mentioned, in Israel and South Korea, like those countries have mandatory military service. So for whatever reason, I don't think Colombia has that, no. But if there's like some like very compelling reason as to why you were not able to apply, when you were 27 or younger. Really, I think generally speaking, I think 27 is the oldest that you can apply. Ok, cumplo 24 años el 19 de agosto de este año, ¿podría postularme? Sí, yo creo que sí podrías aplicar. María Tique. Okay. Sara Fonseca, if I graduated in 2020 and I'm 25 years old, can I apply? Okay. I think around 20, yeah, I think because you're not quite yet 27. Let me check that slide again. Sorry. Okay. Um, so yeah, sorry, Sarah, I'm not exactly sure. It seems that in most circumstances you have to be 18 to 23, um, and also under 27. So yeah, you might have to check online. I think so. I think you could apply, but but since you graduated in 2020, that's what I'm not sure about. But I think it's worth finding out. I'm sorry. You can check online or maybe email them. Sorry about that. Santiago Castrillón, entonces si tengo 24 pero me gradué hace más de un año, no soy elegible, correcto. Sí, eso también no estoy completamente seguro porque la forma que funciona en Estados Unidos, en la constituency de Estados Unidos, es que solamente depende de cuándo te graduaste. Pero parece que es un poquito diferente en esta del Global Roads. Entonces también te diría, Santiago, que mandes un email para averiguar, perdón. Francia Elena Núñez Reyes, para aplicar en esa oportunidad educativa hay que manejar perfectamente el inglés. No, uno no tiene que hablar un inglés perfecto. No, uno sí tiene que tener un nivel de inglés alto. Es decir, que si vas a hacer una clase, puedes entender, o sea, todo lo que te dicen y que puedes escribir ensayos en inglés, que puedes usar inglés en los aspectos académicos y profesionales de tu vida. No tiene que ser perfecto. No tiene que ser perfecto. Ok, Daniela.
Santiago, te interrumpo porque se nos
Sí.
quedó una pregunta arriba de Daniela que dice,
Oh,
¿te
sorry.
exige certificado de inglés? ¿Sabes la fecha de aplicación a la beca?
¿Te exigen certificado de inglés? Yo creo que sí. No estoy completamente seguro. Yo creo que en otros tiempos sí tenías que tomar un examen como de inglés. Yo creo que se llama TOEFL, TOEFL, o también hay otros como exámenes de ingleses que son reconocidos internacionalmente, pero no sé cómo no sé cómo funciona eso hoy. Sorry. ¿Sabes la fecha para aplicar? No, no sé, pero si sí exigen como ese certificado, tendrías que obviamente tomar el examen y después mandar todo antes yo creo que es el 1 de agosto, que era. Ah, ah, sí, antes si sí exigen ese como un certificado de inglés, tendrías que tomarlo con suficiente tiempo para recibir tu resultado y después mandarlo antes del 1 de agosto. ¿Hay un rango de edad específico para aplicar? Sí, usualmente es de 18 a 23, pero hay ciertas excepciones para las personas que tienen 27 y menos. Ok, Sara Fonseca, un promedio de 3.7 de 4 vendría siendo un 4.6 sobre 5 Colombia. No sé. Yo creo que matemáticamente, yo creo que eso tal vez sería la conversión, pero no estoy seguro, porque no sé muy bien cómo funcionan los averajes en Colombia. What is the evidence of English? Evidence of English language proficiency, Ruth. It depends on if they do so because they say evidence of English language proficiency, I think that can be a broad number of things. If you happen to be Colombian, for example, and you studied, I don't know, you did your undergrad degree in Australia, then I think that is evidence enough that you speak English. If if for example you did not study in an English speaking university for your undergrad, um, then you probably would have to take an exam, which makes me think that you do have to take an exam. But I'm sure all this information is going to be for the English language proficiency. It's going to be on their website. Thank you. Manolo Martínez, si tengo 25, acabé mi carrera hace más de un año, no podría aplicarle, es lo que entendí. Otra vez no estoy seguro, perdón, perdón, Manolo. No estoy seguro. Yo creo que depende de cuándo acabaste tu carrera y sí, depende de cuándo. Perdón. María, ¿a ti qué puntaje exigen en TOEFL IBT? No sé. Sí. Ellos deben de tener ese puntaje exacto en su website. What is the required CV format? Frank, there's no required CV format. If my grade was 4.2 out of 5, is it enough? Sorry, Joseph, I'm not sure. It depends. It depends on I don't think so. They wrote that they require 3.7 out of 4. That's for American universities. That's really because and the reason why they listed that GPA is because that's what Oxford has on their course website. Um, yeah, that's because obviously a lot of people from who happen to be from the United States apply to Oxford. And since so many of them apply, Oxford notices that they really want at least a 3.7 out of 4. It might be different in Colombia. Might be a little bit higher than whatever the 3.7 out of 4 translates out of 5. Could be a little bit higher, could be a little bit lower. It just depends. So yeah. Maria Juliana Santos Ospina, hi, I have graduated with a double degree, so my question is, will I have to apply with just one degree or can I be both? I've graduated with a double degree. Um, so you'll apply with both. So in other words, um, yeah, let's say hypothetically, let's say one of your degrees is in like history, another one is in economics, then you can apply to yeah, you can apply pretty much. I think you can apply to any of their courses. So after there's another that's a thank you for asking that. Um, so once you win the scholarship, you'll speak to for the for the global constituency, you'll speak to someone named Mulongo. She's a scholar from Zambia in Africa, and so I think you'll speak to her about whether you'll speak to her about which degree you'll ultimately apply to. Um, yeah. Uh, so um, so that's just to say that you can apply to any degree. Doesn't matter if you have a double degree or a triple degree or just one degree. You can apply to any degree. Yeah, that you want to. Ruth Gomez, if I'm 37, is there any other scholarship I can apply to? I'm sure there are other scholarships. I think that Oxford has lots of their own internal scholarships, so you can definitely apply. There's lots of them. Yeah, really lots of them. ¿Dónde puedo encontrar esta información en español? No creo que esta información esté disponible en español. No creo, no estoy seguro, pero no creo. Sí, sorry. Si las cartas de recomendación que nos piden solo nos la pueden dar en español, tenemos que traducirlas vía traductores oficiales. That's a very buenísima pregunta, Frank. Um, Me imagino que sí. Estoy hasta completamente seguro que sí. Em, y yo creo que esta es la respuesta a esta pregunta. Yo creo que se puede encontrar en el sitio web de ellos. Hi, I arrived a little late. What types of disciplines are you offering scholarships? You can apply, they're offering scholarships to really almost any degree that Oxford offers, any of them. So, yeah. Catherine Moreno Chamorro, para aplicar se debe tener todos los requisitos que expusiste. ¿Cómo puedo aplicar? ¿Es virtual o presencial? Em, sí, uno tiene que tener todos los requisitos que mencioné, que son estos de aquí. um, Academic achievement and excellence, todos estos. Truth, courage, devotion, duty, sympathy, sympathy for and protection of the weak, kindliness, unselfishness, and fellowship, energy to use one's talents to the full, as demonstrated in mastering areas such as sports, music, debate, etc. The courage and skills required to lead with a wider desire for public good. So these are all, todos son los requisitos. Y se puede aplicar, la aplicación es virtual, uno manda todo virtual y cuando llegues a la última ronda, eso ya es en persona. Y ellos mismos te pagan un vuelo para ir a Oxford. Okay. Hello, thank you for your presentation. My question is whether the age and the programs offered are just for Masters in Science or can also apply for PhD. You mentioned limited age is 27. That's the age for all programs. Yes, that's a good question, Juan. Um, you can apply to any, I mean, I think there's some that you can apply to any of Oxford's full-time degrees, any of them. And you have this is another major detail which I left out, sorry. You have usually 2 to 3 years of funding and sometimes 4 years of funding. So you can apply for a master's, a 1 year master's, for example, and then transfer over to do a DPhil or a doctorate. You can do 2 1 year masters. You can do 1 2 year master's program. So you can just go through the list that they have, and there's lots of yeah. There's lots of ways you can combine that. Thank you for that one. Okay, Lisandro Velázquez Sarasti, ¿podrías repetir lo de la entrevista en persona? O sea, ¿cómo fue ese proceso? ¿Cómo te sentiste? ¿Qué percepción tuviste? Esto depende de tu constituency. En Estados Unidos es como, tiene dos partes. La última ronda tiene dos partes. La primera parte es un cocktail party. Es como si fuera como una party, una fiesta, pero obviamente un poquito más formal y y los jueces del comité te preguntan cosas, pero con todo el mundo está allí presente y es como una fiesta, pero yo creo que ellos quieren ver cómo actúas socialmente. Entonces, yo creo que este es otro punto importante. Esto es una beca yo creo que para las personas que son muy como generalistas. Bueno, eso no es necesariamente verdad, porque yo también tengo amigos que son muy especialistas, pero yo creo que este aspecto social demuestra que ellos valoran mucho, eh, yo creo que la inteligencia emocional también. Y sí, gracias, Lisandro. Daniela Barón Cruz, consejos para aplicar y retos. Consejos para aplicar, esa es una muy buena pregunta, gracias, Daniela. Yo diría que vean esta aplicación que es larga, como una oportunidad para ustedes poder eh, pensar y sí, pensar sobre, sobre qué es lo que ustedes quieren en sus vidas. O sea, qué quieren hacer, qué tipo de persona quieren ser y mostrar todos esos pensamientos en el personal statement. Eso sería un consejo. Y un reto es que esto no se puede hacer un día antes, no se puede hacer una semana antes. Esto toma varias semanas de preparación. Entonces sí que por favor tomen eso en cuenta. Diana Alemán, ¿la beca tiene requisitos de regresar y permanecer en Colombia? No. Y eso es algo que he notado también. Hay, por ejemplo, Mulongo, que es la directora del Rhodes Global. Ella es de Zambia, que es un país en África. Y yo creo que ella se quedó. Ella acabó sus cursos en Oxford y se quedó allá. Vivió en Londres y Oxford y todo eso. Entonces, sí, uno no tiene que regresar a Colombia. Camilo Rincón, qué pena me confundí con la edad. ¿Me podrías hacer el favor de confirmar qué requisitos hay de edad? Yo también estoy confundido. Perdón, Camilo. Yo creo que lo mejor sería que si tienen más de 23 años, yo creo que eso sería un buen consejo en general. Si tienes más de 23 años, sea 24 y arriba, lo mejor sería mandar un mensaje.
Santiago, te voy a interrumpir porque ya lo que viene hay varias preguntas que son repetidas, entonces quisiera como que filtremos, nos quedan 6 minutos, filtremos las que tú creas que son como claves y no hemos hablado. Por ejemplo,
Ok,
lo que preguntan las personas que si son, no son deportistas pueden aplicar, como lo que creas que es más clave para que podamos terminar a las 11.
ok, gracias. Ok, let me see. Ok, alguien preguntó si no hago parte de algún deporte o baile, pero soy una excelente estudiante, ¿podría aplicar? Sí, 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 sí. Lo importante es que puedas demostrar. Que sí, que el bienestar de los demás es algo importante para ti. Ok. eh, ok. ¿Qué impactos culturales tuviste cuando llegaste? Em, no tantos, no muchos, pero sí es una cultura, la cultura inglesa es muy diferente, era muy diferente de la americana y va a ser aún más diferente, yo creo, de la colombiana. Sí. Em,
Quizás la de Joan, que pregunta si otorgan becas para estudiar inglés de manera presencial.
ah, si tuvieron becas para estudiar inglés, no. Yo creo que puedes aplicar para estudiar, por ejemplo, literatura inglesa o historia inglesa, pero no para estudiar inglés como idioma. Ah, ¿En qué áreas están disponibles las becas? Todas las áreas.
Quizás la del doctorado. Tú sabes, bueno, no sé si sabes, pero en Colombia lo normal es que haya muchos años antes de hacer un doctorado. ¿Sabes si hay alguna excepción para el tema de edad cuando uno va a hacer un doctorado?
Ah, em, no sé. Perdón, es que yo creo que también recientemente cambiaron esos requisitos, entonces no estoy seguro, pero yo creo que lo que quiero decir es que no. Ok. Si toco algún instrumento musical puede ayudarme con el ingreso. Yo creo que sí, pero no solamente el simple hecho que uno pueda tocar un instrumento musical, sino que lo que les va a interesar a ellos es qué fue qué lograste con el instrumento. O que eso tampoco quiere decir que tienes que ser como excelente, como el mejor, no sé, violinista, pero sí quiere decir que cómo has pensado en lo que puedes hacer con el instrumento, tal vez programaste, organizaste un concierto para ayudar a las personas que, no sé, que se vieron afectados por, no sé, algo así. Entonces, es como una forma de pensar muy como social, algo así. ¿Ok? Am, sí, yo creo que el resto, ok, yo creo que ya. Sí, el resto son preguntas como de la edad o de como extracurriculares. Yo creo, para decirlo otra vez, en general, si tienes si tienes 24 años o menos, yo creo que 23 años o menos, yo creo que estás completamente bien. Donde se vuelve un poquito más complejo es de 24 a 27, porque hay ciertas excepciones para, por ejemplo, países que tienen servicio militar obligatorio y otros países que no.
Bueno, pues Santiago, quiero darte nuevamente las gracias en nombre de las 120 personas que nos acompañaron en la sesión de hoy. Y a ustedes quiero invitarlos a que, como nos dijo Santiago, no se autodescalifiquen, no se autosaboteen. Hacer una buena postulación es fácil si uno lo hace con tiempo. He conocido casos de estudiantes que no tenían nada que vender, pero hacen todo el proceso con anticipación y logran hacer maravillosas postulaciones. Entonces, mucha suerte para todos y ojalá en unos años nos cuenten y nos informen que gracias a esta sesión que nos dio Santiago, ustedes ahora también son becarios del Rhodes Scholarship Program. Gracias, Santiago.
Sí, muchas gracias a todos y sí, por favor, quiero que apliquen. Buen día.